It's so interesting to me to see just how unimportant the combine has become to a lot of top prospects in drafts these days. But the good news is there still is definitely value that we saw from Saturday, from Friday, from some of our mid-level prospects in Dynasty Fantasy Football in this year's rookie draft. So we're ranking the top 15 today after the combine. And just make sure to go down there and drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel to show your support, because this still is a new channel for Dynasty. So getting into our first tier, these are going to be super flex rankings right here. But again, I think that just perfectly displays how valuable Ashton Jeanty is going to be in this year's Dynasty rookie class. I don't care what format you're playing in, whether it's a super flex, whether it's a tight end premium, or whether it's a one quarterback league. Ashton Jeanty is the 101, and there's no questions about it, really. I think that Ashton Jeanty doesn't need to perform in the combine like he chose not to, and people are still going to value him as they should in this year's Dynasty rookie class. This guy had a Barry Sanders level season. He's an absolutely fantastic runner. Everything with the ball in his hands, this guy can do. He's a great pass catching back. He will be a 3-down back at some point in his NFL career, probably right away as well. I don't think that there's need to debate whether he's going to be a really good player in Dynasty or not. He's got the age on his side. He's got the skill set on his side. Let's just move on. Getting into our next tier right here, I think Ted McMillan still does belong at the 102. I'm going to do a deeper dive on Ted McMillan, though, because I do think he's being overhyped to a certain extent. When I first ranked the wide receivers in January, I said, just get ready for the amount of Mike Evans comparisons you're going to hear, the Drake London comparisons you're going to hear. You're already hearing that. You heard Daniel Jeremiah say it at the NFL draft, and you've heard other people say it in the Dynasty community. And I think that if you just take away the size, he's good. And I do think that he's the best wide receiver prospect in this class, clearly. But I don't know if I see this guy being a dominator like Mike Evans is, like Drake London probably will be over the next 5 years or so. I think Ted McMillan is a good player. Back-to-back really good seasons. Definitely has the good measurables and everything like that. You see it on film with the guy. He definitely knows how to run routes crisp. He's great after the catch. There's a lot to like about Ted McMillan, but I don't think that he's going to be this clear-cut, dominant Dynasty prospect like Ashton Jeanty will be. So that's why he's a tier below Ashton Jeanty, but I still do like him at the 102, even in Superflex leagues. Now we're getting into our first quarterback here, Cam Ward, out of the University of Miami. Now, the funny thing with Cam Ward, I think, is that I caught myself in that trap of liking Shedeur Sanders more than Cam Ward during the college season because of the fact that Shedeur Sanders was from the dominant football family with Deion Sanders. But when you actually watch these two on film, it's actually not particularly close to me, in my opinion. Cam Ward is the more talented player, and I think he just has more potential in Dynasty Fantasy Football, because even just the one thing that Shedeur Sanders had on Cam Ward, you could say, was that he was a more accurate thrower of the football. Yes, completion percentages do tell the story on that one. But with Cam Ward, when you actually watch the guy on film, the guy's really decisive. At the same time, is extremely good at making plays. He's so good at extending plays and getting in and out of the pocket, taking off whenever he needs to take off. He's not a Jaden Daniels runner. We don't have that this year in this class. But he's good enough and definitely athletic enough to extend plays and buy himself some time. And while he's continuing to look downfield, he's hitting these balls that I don't think Shedeur Sanders has the arm strength to hit down the field. I think Cam Ward overall, if both of these guys hit, Cam Ward just has the higher ceiling. I think it's as simple as that. And Amarian Hampton has separated himself. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the rest of this offseason to see where everyone ranks Amarian Hampton, because I've seen some people wanting to be different on Amarian Hampton, say, is he that good? Where should he really be ranked? The guy's really good. If you took Ashton Jeanty out of this class, Amarian Hampton is the clear-cut number one back. But of course, with Ashton Jeanty, he's the clear number two, and it's not close, because Amarian Hampton came in to the combine, had the size, 220 plus pounds, 6 feet plus tall. The guy came in and ran a sub 4.5 40 time. And let me tell you this, I'm not a big speed guy with wide receivers. Wide receivers with speed, that doesn't translate to fantasy success, but it does translate to success with running backs. So with Amari Hampton coming in at that size, running at that speed, this guy is going to be a really, really good player and a 3-down back for someone, because we saw the skill set in college with University of North Carolina, and he's got the measurables to do it at the next level as well. Amari Hampton absolutely belongs in tier 2 and is absolutely a clear-cut, at minimum, 104 in Superflex leagues. Now, dropping down to our next tier right here, I've got Shedeur Sanders. And this is where I think that we need to have another conversation about him versus Cam Ward. Like I said, when I was watching college during the actual college season in 2024, I did think that Cam Ward wasn't as good of a prospect as Shedeur Sanders was, because I got caught up into the fact that Shedeur Sanders was just a much more efficient passer, yada, yada, yada. Look, Shedeur Sanders is not a bad prospect by any means, but Cam Ward's bigger, right? Cam Ward's bigger, and he has more arm talent, and I think just more talent in general. Shedeur Sanders can extend plays, and he can get outside the pocket when he needs to, but it's nowhere near on the level of Cam Ward, and he just doesn't have the arm talent that Cam Ward does have. I think the one thing that Shedeur Sanders does have over Cam Ward is that I don't know, and I don't think I want to quantify this in my rankings, because if they both hit, Cam Ward's going to be the better player. But the one thing that does, there's two things that put Shedeur Sanders in good contention for me in Superflex leagues. Number one, he comes from a football family, and I've discussed this before. Players that come from football families are going to find themselves higher ranked in my rankings just because they know what it takes to succeed at that NFL level. Number two is because Shedeur Sanders doesn't have the character concerns as a prospect that some have raised with Cam Ward. Like I said, I don't know these guys personally, so I don't like to let that affect my rankings unless it's glaring like it was with Spencer Rattler last year. But Shedeur Sanders, I do still think, is worthy of a 105 top 5 pick in Superflex leagues. Luther Burden and Emeka Egbuka round out this tier at 6 and 7 here. With Luther Burden, I do prefer him over Emeka Egbuka because I think that he has a better shot at being more of a volume guy, right? Like in a full PPR league, I think that Luther Burden has more comparable traits to somebody like a Zay Flowers, who's not, of course, an incredible scorer in fantasy football because he doesn't get in the end zone too much and he's not really down the field quite as much as he is in shorter routes. But I do think that Luther Burden is going to be that kind of prototype in the NFL. And I think it's going to be more easily kind of integrated into it, any offense in the NFL. And that's how I feel right now because we don't have landing spots for these guys yet. Now, if we go into April and then we get to draft time and Emeka Egbuka goes into a team fit that I think is going to be more suited for his skills. You know, someone like a Detroit Lions type of team where they're going to need that downfield threat. I think Emeka Egbuka probably shoots up over Luther Burden, but I think Emeka Egbuka is probably not as well integrated into any offense blanketed in any NFL scheme. I think that he's a little bit more of a unique player that probably needs a certain coaching staff to be able to unlock all that he has. He's more of a downfield threat. He's got lots of speed. He's got the absolutely, wide receiver screen plays where he can take it to the house. Luther Burden, I think, is more easily integrated into offenses than I think Egbuka is. So I think this one is going to rely on landing spot for sure. And I think with the Emeka Egbuka, if he goes to the right spot, like a Detroit Lions team, then he can be unlocked year one. I think this guy does have potential to be a really good scorer in fantasy and become a flex option that can score you really, really good important points as he grows into his rookie season. This is a place where I'd want to draft him on an underdog type of roster, right? I would think that he would be a really good best ball player in his rookie year. And if you want to get in on a best ball draft on Underdog right now, they have pre-draft best ball where you can draft a team for $10 and have a $250,000 prize for first place winnings. I won $19,000 on Underdog in 2024 and made the finals in 3 different tournaments. And if you want to give yourself a chance to win big on Underdog, go down in the comments and grab the link that's there and use code FFN to sign up for Underdog. They will match your first deposit 50% and give you up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you take advantage of code FFN, and I would use it to go draft a guy like Emeka Egbuka at his current draft price. Now, dropping down to our next tier, I think that Caleb Johnson is still going to be number 8 on my list out of Iowa, and I think there's going to be a lot of contention for people when we discuss Caleb Johnson moving forward, because Caleb Johnson came in to this combine, and I think that for the most part, he was a lot of people's number 3s or number 4s. Travion Henderson and Caleb Johnson, they tended to split from what I've seen in the Dynasty community. Caleb Johnson, there's going to be people that move him down because of his combine performance. He only ran a 4.59 unofficial time at the NFL Combine, and that will scare people off. And like I said, there's definitely something to wide receivers not needing speed in fantasy football, but faster running backs tend to be really good in fantasy football as opposed to slower running backs. So it wasn't a good indictment for Caleb Johnson when he came into the combine and ran a barely sub 4.6 time. Caleb Johnson, though, what keeps me on the hook with him is just what he was able to do, and with his skill set and with his size at the college level. I think that he showed me too much on film, showed me too much of his skill set in college for me to really overreact to this one too much, because I've not made this secret. I'm not the biggest Travion Henderson guy. I get it. The guy is very talented. I was really big on him when he came out of high school. He was one of the best high school players that I had seen in recent memory when he came out of high school. But this guy had a really disappointing career at Ohio State, and that's why I've had trouble getting on board with him. Now, I did end up ranking him over Devin Neal at 10 because of Devin Neal's 40-yard dash performance and because of Travion Henderson's 40-yard dash performance. Travion Henderson, I never doubted the talent. The guy was going to run a 4.40 time, but he actually came out and did that. And ultimately, what I do think it also comes down to with Devin Neal versus Travion is that more teams are going to be interested in picking Travion at the day 2 level. I don't think as many teams will be interested in picking Devin Neal in day 2, in round 2, in round 3. I think Travion Henderson is a lock to go in the second day, and I don't think that Devin Neal is. So draft price is going to affect these guys' values. I do like Devin Neal, though. I'm standing strong. Devin Neal is a preferred prospect of mine. You saw a lot of utility usage with this guy. I think he's got enough size to be able to be a 15-plus touch guy at the NFL level, whereas I don't necessarily feel that Travion Henderson has the skill set to be a 3-down back. So I think these guys all belong in the same tier right now just because of their combine performances and what they offer as players on the actual football field. Now, dropping down to our next tier right here, I've got Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren getting our first 2 tight ends on the board right here. I actually really like these tight ends, right? We don't have a Brock Bowers in this class. There's no clear-cut guy who's a top 15 player in the NFL draft. These guys may or may not even go in the first round. I think Colson Loveland probably has the better shot of going first in this draft. Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren are 2 different types of players. So Colson Loveland is definitely more of the Dalton Kincaid type, right? He's going to be running more crisp routes. He's got more change of direction. This guy is able to be lighter on his feet, and he does have very good hands. Tyler Warren does too. But Colson Loveland is definitely going to be more easily integrated into a 2025 NFL offense where they want to split the tight end out wide, split him in the slot, and have him go up against a slot corner or an actual real cornerback on the outside and be able to run precise routes. Colson Loveland has more application to any NFL offense when it comes to route running. Tyler Warren is going to be a very interesting player because Tyler Warren is also a good pass catcher. Like, he can catch the ball and catch really tough balls, but the really big problem with Tyler Warren is that he is not like a great route runner. This guy, majority of the time, was running like fade routes or, stop and goes or something like that. Tyler Warren just didn't have as much change of direction as Colson Loveland does on film. Now, what I think really makes Tyler Warren interesting, though, is Tyler Warren. If you haven't seen this guy, go watch some film on this guy. He's a very unique player. He throws the ball. He takes it out of the Wildcat. He runs it up the middle as the quarterback in a Wildcat formation. So what my thought is on Tyler Warren is that, yes, he's definitely more of a unique player, and I don't think he'll be able to fit in all 32 teams' offenses in the NFL. But if you get a team that gets him, and they want to use him as a tush-push tight end, like the Ravens have done with Mark Andrews, I think Tyler Warren could have a lot of success, and that will be a big fantasy football trait that he will have. Let's say that they don't ban the tush push, which is still up in the air. I think this guy definitely has utility at that position. I get it. It's more of a pigeonhole, and that's more of a prediction on my part. But that's why I do have Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren. But I do want to say, I think both these guys absolutely could be pretty good tight ends in Dynasty. And to round out this tier, I've got Isaiah Bond at 13 out of Texas. I've discussed this before on my first wide receiver video. I prefer Isaiah Bond over Matthew Golden out of Texas because of the fact that there's more on film. Even though Matthew Golden outproduced Isaiah Bond at Texas, Isaiah Bond showed more route running capability. And that's a big thing for me when I'm evaluating wide receivers. This guy can go deep. He can go over the middle. He runs crisp routes. He can go short. This guy does a lot more than Matthew Golden does as far as route running. So that's why I prefer Isaiah Bond at the next level compared to Matthew Golden. And I think it's a pretty clear decision for me. A lot of people will disagree with this one. Curious to know what you think in the comments. To round out the top 15, I've got Jackson Dart at 14 out of Ole Miss. Jackson Dart is going to be an interesting one to watch. This is a very, very fluid ranking right here because we have no idea if he's going to go in the first round. A lot of people have speculated he's probably not going to go in the first round, but at the combine, there was whispers that I was hearing, and I wasn't there. Just saying, watching on TV, seeing it on X, there was definitely people saying that Jackson Dart has a legitimate chance to go in the first round. And watching Jackson Dart on film, he definitely has a big arm. He could definitely sling it. He's definitely got enough accuracy to where it's not concerning like it was for an Anthony Richardson type. And he can also run. This guy does have physicality. He's got size. He can definitely run and get you, solid 5 to 8 touchdowns on the ground. He's not a Jaden Daniels. Again, we don't have that in this class. But what we do have with Jackson Dart is more rushing upside than I think Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward both have. So Jackson Dart, let's say that he goes to the right team, back of the first round, maybe he goes to the Los Angeles Rams, and they just run out the clock with Matthew Stafford, and then he gets to start in 2026. I think that's a pretty ideal thing for Jackson Dart to go into. So I think there's potential here that this guy could be a really good dynasty player in Superflex leagues. That's why I've got him inside the top 15. And I've got Cam Skattebo. Shouldn't be a secret. I like Cam Skattebo a lot. I've discussed him a ton this offseason, and I think that he's just underrated. Look, I'm telling you guys, Cam Skattebo, if you just look at what he did in his college career, very, very impressive. The numbers were absolutely outrageous, both in the receiving game and on the ground, and the most impressive part to me is the workload this guy handled. Now, that could be viewed as a negative, right? This guy is 23 years old. He looks like he may have some wear on his tires. I can understand that thought process right there. But I'm telling you guys, what I saw in college, there's going to be an NFL coach that loves him. And I've got two teams that I've discussed over the offseason so far that I think had their eye on him. The Denver Broncos and Sean Payton, and the Los Angeles Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. I get it. I'm pigeonholing this guy into a team when I don't know if these teams actually are going to draft him on draft day. But I do think there's going to be a team that really wants to try him as their 3-down back because this guy's just a baller. He's got everything that you want from an efficiency standpoint, from an actual playing style perspective. We just don't love his measurables, and we don't love his athleticism. I get all of that, but I do think there's going to be a team that likes him. So until we see otherwise, I'm going to continue to have him inside my top 50. So let me know where you have these prospects ranked heading out of the combine in 2025. And if you want to see some buy low candidates that you should get on the dynasty market right now, click on this video right here.